Hi, my name is Davin Sturdivant, and this is episode 15 of the Kart Pulse podcast. This time we're talking with Jordon Musser. He was pretty much a professional kart racer. Like when you go through this interview, you'll learn a lot about what Jordan has done as far as his going to the Rotax World Finals and all these other amazing things. I think are going to be really cool. At the long and the short of it, it's really about just how do you get stuff done at the higher levels of karting. And so this is one of those interviews that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. I will caveat that we did this recording kind of over Skype slash in a conference room, so the audio quality between one mic and another is vastly different. I just want to give you guys a heads up just up front, just normally because they're normally kind of close and this time they're not. But the interview is really good, and I hope you guys just hang on and enjoy. All right, let's jump into it.
Yeah, you're grinding into my drinking time.
I feel bad now. All right.
Yeah, at least start drinking. The conversation might be too little too crazy.
Oh, no, you know what? Compared to some of the stuff that James and I have talked about, I don't think that's possible. All right, so tell me a little bit about yourself. Just what's your background in karting? I know you're kind of one of our karting badasses I've been wanting to get a hold on for a little bit, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Now I got a lot of pressure on me. That's a big compliment. So you want me to kind of like walk through like how I got into karting, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff?
exactly. Just give a little bit of background.
Okay, so I'll try to go the too long version, although it could be. I've been doing this a while now, so the karting it can be a kind of a long conversation. But I actually started kind of late. I didn't start racing until I was 20 years old. So the story actually starts a little before that, because of course most guys that got into karting at least as serious as I did, started when they were 5 years old.
Mhm.
And actually, I raced RC cars through middle school and high school. I was competitive. I pretty much as high as ever you can get in karting. I had a sponsorship. I got paid when I finished in the top five in races. So one of probably maybe 20 guys in the U.S. that didn't pay for anything and kind of got to cruise around the United States and race RC cars
Nice,
for a living.
nice.
But at the level I was at, I realized I was gonna have to literally do it for a living once I graduated high school and drive 3 or 4 days a week and actually take a salary, and that was what I was gonna do. Or I needed to, stop doing it because I was at the point where I had to drive every day to get any better.
Right. Yep.
And so I decided that RC cars is not a lifetime career choice for me. As much as I love it, I still enjoy it. Actually, my friends still race, and I've gone and driven their cars. I turned in my RC stuff and went to college. I started an engineering degree and I had a pretty fast car, I had a couple Camaros. I had a V6 Camaro, and then I bought a Z28. And I'd done some autocrossing, was pretty good at it. I won my first event and was always kind of competitive with the front guys. And I wasn't really a hardcore autocrosser, didn't have the budget. I just kind of did it for fun when I had a chance to.
Mhm.
What really got me into karting is, of course, I always wanted to race go karts. I mean, anybody that's into motorsports and has any aspirations to drive professionally or whatever wants to race a go kart, but I didn't have the budget.
Right.
Well, a friend of mine, Eric Kohlenberg, went autocrossing with me, and he maybe shared a car, and he ended up going faster than me like in the first session. So I rode with him in the second session and learned a few things. He's a very accomplished racer as well, a karter in the late 80s, early 90s, and raced cars as well, very successfully. And so I learned a few things from him, and I went back, and pretty sure I ended up beating him. I'm sure if he was here, he'd probably tell me the other way. But anyway, I learned a lot from him, and he said, you really have a lot of natural talent. You ever thought about racing karts and really actually pursuing this and try to do it for a living instead of just goofing off doing it for fun?
Mm.
My friend didn't have the money, but at the time I was in college, literally living on $1,000 a month.
Right. Yeah.
Mom, single parent. There was no money to go race go karts.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
Um, and so I kind of thought about it and ended up having a pretty successful business with my first year in college. I was building engines and doing performance work for other people, porting cylinder heads, building motors, doing turbo kits, all kinds of stuff. And that paid my way through school, but also I put together about 10 grand. I decided that was my budget. It was like if I'm really good enough to do this for a living, then 10 grand should do it. I didn't realize what races.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we made it pretty far. So that was my first year karting. Started in Formula Y locally here in Denton, Texas. Eric,
Ah. Okay. Yeah. Now.
yeah,
Now I know where you're at. Yep. Yep.
yep, exactly. So and Eric was with me the whole time. I couldn't have done without him. He was wrenching for free. Definitely threw in money too to help keep things going. But I was competitive. Matter of fact, maybe don't tell the NTK guys this, but I never ran an orange plate. I just pretended like I knew what I was doing. We literally just pretended like it wasn't our first race and we went racing
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
from out of town or something. But um, we were competitive. Won a little bit, finished second, third, whatever against Trevor McAllister and Mike McAllister and um, Dallas Patterson. These guys are really fast and were top shifter guys. A couple years later, and so we knew we were pretty fast, but we were kind of like, what do we do now? Even if I won at the time WK or IKF or whatever national, it's like it doesn't really do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna. There's no Mazda ride afterwards where Mazda did their ladder. There was no system for doing anything after that.
Right.
I didn't have any money after that. It wasn't like I was gonna have another 10 grand spent the next year.
Sure.
So Eric and I pulled our money together and we ended up buying a Rotax because we felt that one, it was an even playing field.
Mm-hmm.
All the motors were the same, and if you win, you got an opportunity to the World Finals, which obviously had a lot of publicity at the time. And if you won the Nationals, it was people were pretty knew that you didn't win because of money. You win because you had the best, you had the best setup and you had the best, driver at the time or whatever, had the best platform or whatever you want to call it for the weekend. But where they wouldn't say, oh, he had more motor, he has a Mike Speed shifter motor, or it's a Yamaha built by Walter, whoever it was at the time has the fastest motors.
Mm-hmm.
It really would, if I won, it would mean that people would know I was good at what I was doing.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we did. We ended up winning. So that late in the season, that was back when Rotax required you to qualify for the Nationals. And they're very strict about it because they had so many racers that they could do that. And the only way to qualify is to win Rock Island. And keep in mind, this is now like 8 months or something, 9 months into me starting racing, period.
Yeah.
So I went to Rock Island, crashed in the first practice, which is pretty much what you're never supposed to do. Didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I really only racing go-karts for a short period of time. I mean, I didn't know you could change an axle, like for stiffness. I didn't know that existed.
Right.
So very immature as far as, knowing what to do to the kart. But, kind of walked around the pits, asked a lot of questions. I remember being in lowball and just asking him right to his face what gear he was running. I didn't know that was a big deal, like a secret. He kind of looked at me and laughed, and I didn't know at the time, like, that was a big deal.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Now, but at the time, he's probably like, what a punk-ass kid. But anyway, so because he was on pole.
Right.
We ended up figuring it out and won the race.
Nice.
Started, I think, 8th or 9th. One of my best friends, Chris Jennings, who started racing soon after and still races with me today, actually wrenched for me that weekend. It was his first time at a go-kart race, and obviously it fit him as well, and he started racing not soon after. So kind of cool, too, to have him involved. And then, so won that race, got an opportunity to the Nationals, and won the Nationals, and it kind of did what we thought it would do. I still didn't have the money I probably should have to keep moving, but the next year CRG with Joe Ramos sponsored me, so go-karts, which made a big difference. Eric stepped up and helped even some more. A good friend of mine, Chuck Knoll, who was one of Eric's best friends at the time, stepped in and helped us out with a little bit of cash, and then we won the Rotax Nationals again in 2003. And then that turned into a Mike Manning sponsorship. So Mike Manning sponsored me next year, and we were very open with him. It wasn't trying to be cheap. Literally, I just didn't have any money. It wasn't
right.
I could not want to pay for my plane ticket. The free ride was nice, but I literally didn't have the money to travel the race. It was just non-existent. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And so he stepped up, and man, Mike really took care of me, went above and beyond that year to make sure that everything we needed was covered. It wasn't so bad, and we won again for a third time in a row. And that led to some Skip Barber opportunities, some odds and in-car stuff, which was cool. Obviously, I never had the budget to really take any of those opportunities and go as far as maybe I wanted to.
Sure.
But I just love racing so much, love karting, just love whatever I could afford at the time I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And so continued to race go-karts. Met a now long-time sponsor, 11 years now, Dave Pauly of 3G Kart Racing, stepped up about the time I probably would have quit racing. I was out of money. I'd done everything I could do. I won Rotax Nationals, 4 times at that point, 3 times in an international kart, once in a DD2, and I was just kind of like out of money. What am I gonna do next? I love doing it, but I specifically can't afford it. And Dave stepped in, and we ended up racing shifters for the first time, SEC. His thing was he had watched me race for the last few years and really appreciated the thinking behind what I was doing. You can kind of tell that driver that thought a lot about what I was doing and kind of the engineering mindset, and he appreciated that about my driving style.
Yeah.
And but people kind of were talking shit actually about, well, he's only winning in Rotax, and if he ever had a shifter, he wouldn't do very well. All the fast guys moved on.
Of course.
So he bought a used ICC motor, and we had like a 2-year-old go-kart, and we went racing, and ended up winning the regional championship, won 10 out of 12 races against very high-quality shifter drivers. Matter of fact, Ryan Kinnear was racing, which I'm racing against now again.
Nice.
In S4. So did very well. We went and raced Super Nationals in what would have been like a Super Pro back then. Uh, like qualified down like 13th or something. We were running 8th or ninth. I remember battling with Ron White and Joe White, pretty big names. Blew up a motor, but we were competitive. The point was we definitely kind of turned some heads and made it known that we were a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
Did that for a couple of years, kind of on off, but never really went and ran like a pro tour or anything like that.
sure.
Um, but persistence, I guess, paid off. I was at a shifter kart race, a regional. I was dominating Houston, doing really well. I think it was a Southwest Regional Cup at the time. And I met a guy, Ray Butler, who had a son who just started racing, and we started talking. And he said, I don't understand, why don't you do this for a living? He was new to the sports. He was thinking, hey, it's like baseball. You start in the minors, and then you're one of the better ones, and you get picked to go to the majors, and you move up. And so I kind of had a hard car with him and explained to him how racing really works. Is you have to have some money behind you, even if you're there's a certain amount of money, and it may only be a few $100,000 a year, but for me, a few $100,000 a year was not even in realm of possibility.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So we kind of talked a little bit. He said, "Well, would you ever do it again?" I said, "Honestly, I'd only do it if there was I would not. At that point, I had a job. As an engineer, I was moving up the totem pole, and it was kind of cool actually to be able to pay my bills and house and do these normal mature things."
Right.
And actually, still racing go karts for fun, but actually be able to afford to pay my own tire bill and things. And I said, well, if it was a business opportunity where like it was more than just me showing up and driving a race car, so I wouldn't want to quit my job for what would probably turn into like 1 year deal.
Right.
I'd definitely love to do it. It'd be awesome. Like a few weeks later, we started talking again on the phone, and before you knew it, we'd ordered a couple Camaros, Grand Am at the time, and I quit my job and we started a shop called Momentum Motorsports. And
Oh, that's you.
that was
Okay.
me.
Oh, okay. You guys run Momentum runs F4 now, right?
No, different company
Oh,
now.
different one. Okay, gotcha.
So we sold the assets to one guy and the cars to another guy about 3 years after we ran. So we ran like,
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay.
and it was interesting because uh, we thought the Camaro was going to be the car to have.
Yeah.
It was brand new, exciting. We had a lot of sponsors interested,
Yeah.
but Chevy wasn't prepared yet because of the bailout to start writing checks to the series. So again, it's a money game, man. No checks, no power.
Right,
So
yeah.
they gave it a restrictor, and we just got killed. I mean, it wasn't no Camaro was competitive, and of course that killed our business. And we ended up switching to World Challenge, joined up with Alec Udell and Artie Topi, and did some some racing with paying drivers in the seats, and they did well. And we ended up I ended up getting to drive the car one event and actually won Miller in 2012, I believe it was, in World Challenge. So it was cool to get like a professional motorsports victory.
Yeah.
We actually, it's kind of a funny story. So we did it on like a shoestring budget, like used brake pads, used tires, like it was absolutely as cheap as we possibly do it.
Yeah.
I had my truck driver, we had 18 wheelers, we had a commercial driver's license, and I had one friend helping wrench. So we show up to this World Challenge race, unload. We don't have enough people to set up our awning, because you need 4 or 5 people to get the awning up. So we set up an easy up. So we're working on this 10 by 10 easy up. It's like 50 degrees outside or colder, probably 40 in the desert. And all the other teams, of course, are $1 million a year budget teams, and they're in the garages where they have their huge awning set up, and it starts snowing. So we're out here working on the car in the snow, and a 10 by 10 easy up does not cover a Camaro.
No.
We have the thing on setup pads, we got strings, we're literally doing alignment in the snow.
Nice.
One of the car in my driving suit, and my mechanic is helping me on the other side, and it's about as shoestring as probably any pro team would ever run ever.
Sure.
Literally used tires, used brake pads, used everything. But we were quickest in practice, and so I called Ray, who was the financial backing behind Momentum. I said, look, dude, we're fast. Let's put tires on. And he said, absolutely. It was like not.
Yeah, it's the racer's answer. Yeah, tires equals win. Give me tires. Yep.
Yeah, give me tires, exactly. So playing field, So new tires. Qualifying got snowed out, which sucked. So we had to start last. We had no points. That was my first ever World Challenge race.
Of course.
But we went from like 17th and won the race.
Nice.
So yeah, it was cool, and that was a waking moment though, because GM stepped up and actually offered us parts support, which was cool. But you're talking about $100,000 or $200,000 of the parts when you have a $50,000 year tire bill alone.
Right. Yeah.
Without the cash to pay the other parts of the race, it just wasn't going to happen.
Right. No, I hear you. So here's the thing. Like that shows that how this works in one way or another. And so we talk to a lot of people that say Obviously the get the money part's going to be key, right? I mean, we can't really move forward in racing without cash. But what about the other elements? Like, what are some of the other things you did that made it so that stuff worked?
Oh, that is a great question. So persistence, of course, that's pretty lame. That's what everyone says. Hustle, persistence, all the normal buzzwords. But just being genuine with all the people that I was always involved with.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of drivers, they move up the ranks, burn bridges because they basically absolutely wring every sponsor they ever had out for every last dollar, and sometimes put them in a bad spot.
Right,
They if some guy's 100 grand, they still manage to squeeze 200 out of him, and then that guy's pissed because he needed that money for whatever else.
right.
Maybe the guy not he stole it to feed his family, but the point is a lot of drivers end up taking more than they really should have, and taking pulling the emotional strings and getting things they probably shouldn't, and it works for some people and they make it all the way. But if you make any kind of mistake, you need to go back to that person and say, hey, like I need to set tires, go work fast in practice. Those kind of things. Those people I've worked with, Ray and I are still friends. Eric and I are still good friends. Every person I dealt with in racing, I consider a friend. We still are friends, whether they've helped me or I've helped them or whatever. I think that's don't burn bridges, and treat people with respect. And I mean, it's not just a facade, and that is absolutely how I believe and what I believe in.
Yeah.
And so I think that's helped me get places that I may have not have gotten. Now, maybe if I had gone and just treaded on everybody and taken everything I possibly could, and burned those bridges, maybe I would have made it farther in racing.
But it could have also
But it's
it could have also blown up in your face, right?
and that happens to a lot of kids
Yeah.
and parents,
Yeah.
all the time. So I'm perfectly happy with where I'm at now. I mean, I'm getting to race, super competitively in S4 against really great drivers. It's fun,
Yeah.
but it's not a job. I have a great job as well,
Yeah. So,
and I still get to have fun on weekends and enjoy racing for the sport, not necessarily for a paycheck.
no, I hear you. And that's the thing. It's like I know that as we move through racing, the path isn't always set. It's not always straight, and so you don't exactly know exactly where you're gonna go. You don't exactly know what is gonna come out of it. So being able to develop those positive relationships is pretty key. Like I haven't done nearly as much racing as you have, but even like with the sponsors I've worked with, I'd say that 80% of them I've ended on a good note. And normally
Right,
the ones that didn't, it was more of a relationship breakdown, right?
right,
And it's like with any other person, right? Just you do your best to be transparent. You do to what you say you're gonna do. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes needs change, but it's how you communicate those changes that really keeps the relationship alive. Because you can do something that maybe that person may not benefit them directly, but still manage a good relationship with that person so that it's an amicable change of how life works. It doesn't always have to be like, well, I'm not, let's say I'm not supporting you anymore, therefore this needs to be a painful thing, right?
no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you have to think about all they've done for you.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they stop. It's not about that. It's what they've gone, bent over backwards. I know for a fact that some friends of mine that weren't wealthy put together $5,000 at a time to help me out here and
Oh
there.
yeah.
And that difference in them going on vacation
Oh
sometimes or
yeah.
buying a new. I mean, it was a serious amount of money for them to
Yeah.
commit to something that that they were really just helping me on.
Yep.
So, and I is not lost on me.
Yep. 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 Yep.
I think it's, and also, you have to remember it's fun.
Yep.
At the end of the day, you have to really enjoy it. I have drivers that approach me as for coaching, both literally on track, but also just kind of like, how did you get here kind of things, and how can I do some of the same things you did, and what did you do wrong, how do you get farther, whatever. And a lot of it is about, I'm like, if you're going to do this, you have to really, really enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of work.
Yep.
And it's not easy to be one of the best because there's so many talented drivers out there that are willing to work really hard. So, and there's a good chance you won't make it, as a professional. If you really want to do this, you want to spend this kind of money, you better really like it because there's a good chance on the other end you're going to race an S4 with me when you're 30, and you're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you better have a smile on your face and enjoy what you're doing, or you're going to be miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Too
Definitely.
many guys do it strictly. Oh, I want to do it if I get to drive a Formula One car.
Right.
Well, you're probably not doing it for the right reasons, and unless you're, Ayrton Senna, you're probably not going to make it with that attitude.
Right.
It's just a good guy.
Yeah. Totally. 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 And that's refreshing to hear because I think a lot of people get jaded because racer A has all the resource and racer B doesn't, or racer B is fast and racer C is not, or whatnot. And at the end of the day, we're supposed to be having fun. And if you throw your enthusiasm and your passion into something and have a good work ethic and treat people well, you normally come out on the good side. It normally comes out well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's funny because like even the sponsors that I work with, most of them don't care if I win or not. right? They're more like you bring value, you do what you say you're going to do. You either help our business or I like you, and it's good to be associated with you and vice versa. So I am enthusiastic to be involved with whatever you're doing. Whether you're
Yeah.
whether you're first or whether you're 50th, you provide you're a good conduit for something that I like to do, and so I want to work with you. And that's a big deal, right? Because like we always make that joke too. Only one guy can come in first. And even though winning is a big deal, at the same time, there are other ways to quote unquote win that it can help you move ahead.
I mean, and I go to win, obviously,
Hmm.
but I don't always win.
Yeah,
I mean, no one always wins.
sure.
And, I've definitely had a few seasons where I definitely did not win. And I've had, at a natural level, there's been a couple seasons, even though I took it very seriously, I didn't win at all,
Right.
a couple seconds, whatever, but, almost, I like to win the most, but it almost is more invigorating to finish second or third because it drives you to go want to win,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
makes you want to work harder.
yeah, yeah.
I've been with, back to the sponsor thing, I've been with Dave with 3G Kart Racing now for 11 years. And we're not related. This is truly a friendship. We've become very close friends,
Yeah.
Obviously. But it's not my dad, it's not my brother, it's not some rich uncle. It's truly someone I met through karting that appreciated what I was doing. And believe me, we've not always won. We've definitely had some bad seasons. We also won a lot too. But it's I don't feel any less support from him when we're losing than we win. Yeah,
Yeah.
he ribs a bit, and of course we're both frustrated and tired. And then the weekend when we finish 12th and or 5th or whatever, and we spent just as much money as we do and win, but he still sponsors me the next year.
Yep.
He knows how much I appreciate what we're doing. And it's it's not about the money. Of course that's a resource that's required.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's about racing, competition, and being at the track and the atmosphere. He loves the atmosphere. I love the atmosphere. You wake up in the morning and the engines are starting, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you're at a racetrack. Like, there's nothing better than being at the racetrack. Like, a bad day at the track is still a day at the track. So, come on now.
Yeah, I say all the time, worst day at the racetrack still better than the best day in the office.
Yeah.
But then I have a bad day at the racetrack, I'm like,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I always I forget that sometimes too, because sometimes you're like, I want to go home. Yeah,
yeah,
for
the
sure.
margarita.
Okay, I have a question because I wanted to ask you this for like, I don't know, 3, 4 months. What's this I hear about you on a bench in Rock Island? And that's all you have?
Uh,
What's this about?
yeah, so again, this is going back to like $0 and 0 cents.
Yeah,
So I had a friend Suburban. We loaded the go kart in the
yeah.
back. It was about 13, 14 hours before practice started,
Hmm.
and we were in Dallas, and it's about a 13-hour drive.
Yep.
So I talked my buddy Chris Jennings into helping me wrench and drive up there. And so we hit the road and drove up there, and I got there in like 11 hours, got a little faster than we thought, but definitely wasn't early enough to get a hotel. I mean, wasn't you couldn't justify the cost of a hotel, nor could afford a hotel.
Right.
And so just curled on the park bench and sleeping on the park bench, and then we literally were awoken by like people walking by and staring at us, thinking we were bums.
Nice.
We had no boat. We didn't have a pop-up tent. We were literally in the back of a Suburban, so there was no equipment around. So it was just a Suburban, an older Suburban at that, backed up to a parking spot, and two dudes sleeping on two
You
park
look like
benches.
you're homeless.
Yeah, seriously. And we kind of like wake up, look around, and like, oh shit, practice gonna start soon. We start pulling the go kart to the back, and we have to reassemble it. We take it apart, fit in the back of the Suburban.
That's
And
amazing.
and then, of course, first practice I crashed. We bend the front end, and we don't have any parts.
Right.
So we're up there hammering on it. So here's these two dudes, like cart stand, little red toolbox, back of Suburban. They just woke up on a park bench. Now their go-kart's bent, and they're hammering your back straight with a big hammer.
Though, like the big thing I like about you though is that if I could summarize it, it's just be like, just do what it takes. Like, just do what you have to do, right? And
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I really do. I mean, because hell, I get frustrated with it all the time. Where you're like, I don't have the money, or I'm 30 and so's kid's 15 with a rich dad, or there's always an excuse of why this isn't working, right? And sometimes it's find the right equipment, or sometimes it's pick the right class, or get the right group. But at the end of the day, just do what you need to do to make it work,
Yep.
And
Your and that's just part of it.
yeah, that's a big part of it, and I think the other part, because like I'm working through this myself now, is working your way through the challenges to find something that works, to find something that's focused, because with that kind of helps you get the momentum to be able to be successful. And so getting the right people around you, working with the right sponsors, having the right equipment, setting the right expectations, and now at the end of the day, having fun will get you to be successful, rather than just like screaming at the wall, why isn't this working?
I can assure you that you're always learning too. I mean, I've been doing this, now for a relatively long time, what, 20, 35, so 30, 15 years or so. And certainly the last 5 or 6, Dave and I have taken it very seriously, and pretty much no expense spared within reason. I mean, we're not spending $100,000 or
I
anything,
won't
but
tell
we have
anybody.
the right equipment. Yeah. We're not showing up with old equipment, new go-karts every year, a new motor every year. We're doing it right.
Yeah,
Um, and we're still constantly learning.
yeah.
15 years, good equipment, and every time on the track, I learn something new. Every lap, I swear to God, I learn something new. Small mistakes, small corrections, new stuff about setup. We learn something new about chassis setup or motor setup every time we race.
Mm.
Period.
Hmm.
I don't know how many races I've done, but I still learn something new every single time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like I said before, like I think that's good for just anybody to hear kind of where they are in racing because we get stuck and we get our egos are like our best friends and worst enemies at the same time, right? And so it's easy to kind of have that sometimes weigh you down and you don't make the progress you could when you just kind of turn your brain off and start learning again. And so that's always an important thing of like regardless of where you are. Like I'm jumping into a new class this year, and a big part of it is to one start racing a little bit more, but also just to go back to having fun, so that it's fun and you enjoy yourself.
Class change.
Yeah. So I'm going from, well, I guess it's kind of a weird sideways step, right? So I was running tag with one motor. I took some time off and did some brake stuff because I was helping somebody else start a team. And now I'm jumping into another regional motor. It's a PRD, like a spec PRD. So I'm basically just
Okay.
going back to go back to tag, right? And the reason for that too is like trying to find a class that there's a decent field size. I live up here in Seattle, right? So we have a decent, all right, like a number of carters. Like the skill level's high, but it's just the number of people who go to races. So
Right.
it was finding a class that worked well with my weight, that had a good number of drivers in it, that we could kind of work with, that had at least a little bit of power behind it. Like I like Briggs, it's fun, but there's not a lot of horsepower. So
Yeah.
it's only really fun when you've got a bunch of people in a field, and weight can be a big deal. And
Well,
yeah,
and guys that get into do class or whatever, and I find this not to say you in particular, but like guys that are looking classes to run, and they say the exact same thing about running a big class. It's important, because it's fun and there's more people to race against, but it's actually even more important than that. When you're running with a bunch of people, it means you always have someone to race with.
yeah,
When you're 20th, you're actually racing for 20th, and you're learning something from the guy running 19th.
yep.
If there's 5 guys and you're 5 seconds back, you're not learning
You're
anything.
not learning anything. Yep, yep, totally.
It's better. The field's big. You're being raced from someone behind you, and you're racing someone in front of you. Because one year you're racing for 20th, next year you're racing for 15th, next year you're racing for 10th.
Hmm.
And you can't get that progression without getting your butt kicked. And having some people really racing hard with you.
Totally, 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 totally. So, I decided to make a switch. It was actually more of to be completely honest, it's just a more of a matter of preference to have something with power. Because I could have kept running 206, and I do all right in most of the races in 206. Like I either be top three, top five in some places, and in larger races maybe top 10 somewhere, and that was cool. But at the same time, I did want to run with something with power too, and so this was kind of a good opportunity at least to get back with a cart with a modicum of power.
I,
So, that's
Dude, I told obviously I race shifters, but I have a 1300 horsepower street car,
yeah.
so I completely understand horsepower.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that's kind of one of those. The other thing that really actually brought me back home too is that when I started karting, because like kind of similar background to you, I started racing when I was 20, and I started with autocross too. And so maybe about 5 years in, I had a buddy of mine that pulled me into kart racing, and he was the kind of the guy who got me started and really kind of got me really excited about racing go karts. And so I had an opportunity to start racing with him again, and he's one of those people like you say that's like a lifelong friend that he's done so much for me to kind of get me to where I was going that when I wasn't racing with him it wasn't nearly as much fun. And
Yep.
he came back to me and he's like, I have these ambitions to do these things. I'm not particularly, let's say, where I want to be, and I may not be able to throw any money at you or anything, but I really would appreciate if you would come and race with me. And it was not even a thought, like it wasn't even a thing. I was like, yes,
Yep.
we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And that's like more importantly, like more than the class, more than the racing, like more than all that, I get to do something with a friend, and kind of work to be successful with my friend, and that is almost more motivating than anything else because you got someone that's got your back when things aren't going well, just as well as someone who's giving you a high five with things that are going well. I've raced with people who only want to back you up when things are going well, and that's no fun because they're not always going to go well.
Yep.
Yeah.
No matter how good or great or whatever car equipment driver, stuff doesn't always go
Yeah,
great.
and I've had that experience, and it kind of sucks. Like I raced for a guy a year or so ago that it was much like that, and it was a good experience to have because like my background is much like yours. You're an engineer, and I'm a business guy, so from a professional side of it, it's always really good to sometimes have those negative experiences so that you learn how you handle yourself in those situations and also how to identify things and make tweaks to yourself to improve for the next time. So on the one hand, I was upset, but the other hand, I was kind of happy to be treated that way because it gave me a good it gave me a good experience to kind of thicken my skin up and think about why I was doing these things, right? So
Yeah,
like
you
it
kind of got this.
yeah, yeah. So like I was, it actually turned out to be a benefit at the end of the day because then, when my friend Jason came back and said, "Hey, I really would like it if you come race with me. Like I have this chassis for you." Like da da da. I was like, "Done, done, 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 done." And so we'll see what we, come out of it, but it's gonna be fun no matter what happens. So, yep. Cool. So, all right, I got another question. I know we're kind of getting up on a half an hour, so I want to respect your time here. You've been doing a lot of karting, and things have changed a ton since when you started. What's one thing you wish karting would go back to?
Oh man, I personally think karting has gone a great direction.
Hmm. Good. This is good.
Only
Yes.
downside would be obviously there's a lot less say mom and pop, or should I say, father and son or daughter, mother, whatever, family, small niche teams kind of working together. All the teams are a lot bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that because of the kind of more team atmosphere, the whole sport's a bit more professional.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I feel like the playing field is pretty a lot more level than it was, at least in shifter cart. So this premier, yeah, at the grassroots level, I think it's still great, but at the pro level, when I started, it was like super pro, super crazy modified motors. Yeah, people like to say, oh, back in the day, and me and my son would race and we'd run super pro. There's no way you were beating guys like Scott Speed any day of the week.
Right.
Period.
Right. Yeah.
He had more motor, excellent driver,
Yep.
obviously, made it very far, made it in a Formula One car, but you weren't going to beat him. You didn't have the power, you didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
resources.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the combination of what Scooz has done, and possibly now they do have kind of larger teams, so you have a lot more knowledge sharing.
Yep.
That you can. There's no doubt in my mind that if you have the talent, you can go to a Scooz race, spend $5 grand, rent all the equipment, and go race, and win if you're good enough.
Yeah.
And I think in 2000, no matter what people like to say, if you were Joe Blow off the road and you had $5,000 check in your hand, you'd be able to rent equipment that would win the race.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, I think it feels like it's gotten more expensive, and it probably just to race, it's gotten more expensive. Like to kind of cruise around in 10th, maybe it's gotten more expensive. But I think to win, it hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's probably the opposite of what a lot of people say.
Yeah,
As
but
far
I like it.
as,
Yeah.
and it's so expensive. It is extremely expensive. Tires are just out of control expensive. But we start to look at the cost, and every time I start getting jaded on the cost to go racing these big national races, I compare it, of course, to other sports and racing cars,
Yeah.
etc. But the travel expenses is such a huge part of it, and that's not racing. That's just it. Literally costs X dollars to get from point A to point B, stay in a hotel, eat food,
Yep.
and there's nothing Tom Kutcher can do about
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. But
You're bitching about, and I get it because I bitch too. So I'm pretty
we racers, we all bitch.
like that. But at I'm like, man, $220 set of tires. Why aren't they 200? It's $20. Even if I go through 5 sets, that's $100 difference over the course of a weekend.
Yeah.
My hotel was a 200 a night.
Yeah.
It sucks, yes, and it adds up, and 100 on top of another 100 on top of another 100 is now 300 and starting to be a real number. But it's just an opportunity to race on a very even playing field. I don't treat it as a stepping stone. It happens to be one sort of, but in karting at the upper echelon, you have the best of the best.
Yep.
And if you're able to race against the Formula One, level of karting,
Yep.
you can do it for $5 grand a weekend.
Yeah.
You can rent a ride at the best team for $5 grand.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And yes, I get it. A lot of people can't afford that. I've been there. I get it. I have to have a sponsor to be able to do it. But in the grand scheme of things, if you run an entire national tour, you might spend $20,000 or $25,000 to have equipment that the winner has.
But and I think that's the big value though of karting that like people sometimes overlook because try to take $25,000 and take that to an F4 team. What are you gonna do with that, right? Like try to.
Or even Miata.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or even Spec Miata. I was literally just about to go there. Yeah.
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 Now you race.
Yeah.
Spec Miata 25K a year.
Oh.
You will not
Totally.
25.
Totally. And it's funny you bring up Spec Miata because like if Jason hears this, he's gonna like poke me when he sees me because when he met me, that's what I thought I was gonna do because I didn't know anything about competition karting. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll do Spec Miata because that's really all I know about. And da 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 da. And there was two things. He looked at me and he's like, you don't have the money to run Spec Miata and you just don't know it yet. and two, like wait until you try to go and run like a majors or something, and look at how much money you'll be spending for what you're driving. Like the Miata's a great car, don't get me wrong. I've owned four of them as road cars, but the point is that as a race car to be competitive, like you're gonna hate yourself, right? Come karting, just trust me. And
Yep.
like that was the life-changing thing that he told me was come karting, just trust me. And I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like wow. I just
And I've raced Spec Miata a little bit, and I have friends that do it. I've raced some Spec Racer
mhm,
Ford. Um, and Spec Racer Ford is arguably maybe a little bit better as far as cost goes, but it's still to really run up front. The guys that are winning are spending an enormous amount of
yep,
money, and I think the parity, the difference between what it takes to run, what the guys are running mid pack and a go kart in the front is much smaller
yep,
versus the Miatas or Spec Racer Ford or any kind of car
yep,
class.
yep.
The delta between the have and the have nots is much
No,
smaller.
I hear you. I hear you. So and it's funny because like, I just did a podcast with Ross Bentley 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about that. It's like I'm not. There are times where I get super excited about karting, and it might sound like I'm slighting on cars, but like really deep down in my heart of hearts, I'm not trying to slight one or the other. But if you're gonna have an argument on cost, dollar per value, like dollar per dollar, you can't beat a go kart. Just like I have X amount of money and I want the best racing experience I can get my hands on, or the most amount of laps I can do, it's always going to be a racing cart, and it just is, and that's
Yep.
the end. So
And just look at the cost to go drive it, even if the car is free, just entry fees, it's $250 to a track day.
yeah, yeah, it is.
I don't
Yeah,
know your local kart track, but I can go to a practice day for about $40,
yep,
depending on the track,
$40.
and TK for $300 a year. I got to just key to the track.
Yeah, totally. It's funny for one of my local tracks in Tacoma, it's $300 a year, and then it's $5 a day. Even
Yep,
even in one of the tracks that's more expensive by me, which is $70 a day, is nothing compared to Pacific Raceways or the Ridge, which could be several $100s a day. For at
yep,
the end of the day, less seat time because I have to share it with other classes and blah 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 blah, and we have to rent the track and da da da. Right. So again, it's I tell a lot of my friends who are car racers that want to even race during the winter or just want extra seat time. I'm like, get a racing cart. Like what you spent
yep,
on tires for the year could have had you racing all year. Like, come on,
yep,
right?
yep.
So yeah, I know you've done it. So like, I know you know.
And I was citing some relatively large numbers, national stuff, and that was really saying if you want new equipment, you show up, rent brand new stuff every time. You can honestly win national level stuff with one go kart a year, one motor a year, just keep the stuff clean and fresh, and you're spending half the numbers I was quoting,
Right.
and you can't win. It's really no different.
Yep.
It's nice to show up with new equipment all the time, but it's definitely there's guys winning on year old go karts, no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was even citing the top end of it, and it's still way cheaper than what you would do a car.
Totally, 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 totally. It's funny because I'll never turn down an opportunity to drive something cool because I do like to drive. But when I started racing karts more frequently, I just knew that that was the thing I always wanted to come back to. I just went, this is
Yep.
great, this is fun.
Well,
Yeah,
lottery, and then I'll probably do more car stuff.
yeah,
But
exactly, exactly.
now, still show cards. I guarantee that if I win live, so relationship everywhere.
Yep, 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 yep. Cool, 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 cool. So there we go with episode 15 of the Cart Pulse podcast. I appreciate Jordan for his time, and I want to give him a free shout out if he wants to do another interview because I'm sure we can hit better quality on the mic. But I think the message got across that if you want to, you can just get it done when it comes to karting. Let us know what you think on forums.cartpulse.com or hit us up on Facebook or Instagram. And I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.